Hello all, and I don't know, did anything fun happen in wrestling today? Anything to talk about at all? I kid. I will get to Tito Ortiz and TNA in a second. But first, I want to talk about the other thing I saw today, which was the opening round of the G1 tournament in Japan. For those of you that will be watching this because, ooh, Tito Ortiz and TNA and yay and all that stuff. Probably not yay. But anyways, we're going to talk about a little G1. G1 is, if you haven't seen any of my other videos, you don't know what I'm talking about. New Japan Pro Wrestling in Japan puts on a tournament every year called the G1 Climax. It is a round-robin tournament. They pick X amount of guys, and then usually they have a bracket, a B bracket. Winner of A bracket takes on the winner of B bracket, and that's your winner, and then they get a future title shot in some way, shape, or form down the line. This year's, particularly the A bracket, is particularly insane, and so yeah, there is that, and then and the B bracket is, even though not as insane, it's still pretty damn good. So I was looking forward to these series of shows. It's 9 shows over, I believe, 9 shows over either 11 or 12 days. I can't exactly remember. And of these 9 shows, there were, I think there's 5 of them that I actually am really into seeing. You saw my last video, I bitched because they really priced it out of my price range, and I think a lot of other people's price range. You basically have to buy all 9 shows. It's 150 bucks. Yeah. And I kind of bitched about that, and I'm still bitching about it. But I did watch the first one because that was one that I wanted to see because it was a pretty loaded show. It was a really good show. I wouldn't call it a great show. There was nothing great on the show, but there was really nothing bad on the show. The worst match was Ishii and Lance Archer, and that was okay. And arguably that was the only okay match on the entire show. Everything was good to very good on the rest of the show. And given the way the tournament works, that's really good. You're basically going to get a lot of even-Steving stuff. This was my one complaint about this, the opening, was that you got a lot of upsets, which I didn't necessarily like, so that was no fun. But you had a lot of good stuff. The Kota Ibushi and Yano match was surprisingly better than I thought it would be. Ishii and Archer was kind of what it was. Tenzan and Benjamin was good. Shibata and Davey Smith was one of the better matches. There were probably 4 or 5 matches on here that were arguably the match of the night. It kind of just depends on what you enjoy. They did a very shoot-style match, which was kind of cool to see. Naito and Takahashi had a good match. Nagata and Suzuki had, it's hard for them to even, I think, have an okay match. They had a really good match. Makabe and Goto had a really good match. Nakamura and Anderson had a pretty good match as well. Tanahashi and Kojima had a really good match, and Okada and Prince Devitt had what you would expect. Nothing show-stealing, nothing amazing, but still, I wouldn't say a show to go out of your way to see, but I would say if you were interested in the tournament, this is definitely one of the shows to watch. I will probably not watch the next show, which will be on the day that most of you will see this. I think day 4 is the next show that I probably want to see. Maybe day 3, but I'm thinking it's day 4. And I'll probably, when I see that, I will do a review of that as well. But, again, if the G1 is something you're interested in, it started off really well, really excited. Hopefully we can get to where we can order the individual shows, particularly by the end of the tournament. Would love to be able to give New Japan money for the shows I want to see, so there we go. But that's all I really wanted to talk about there. And then you have yes, TNA. So I didn't used to have Thursday nights off. I haven't had probably Thursday nights off in I can't remember how long. I used to, when I actually watched TNA, or I felt like, I would at least try to watch TNA. I had a you know, I would record it. And then when I moved, Cox Cable are bastards, basically. I am in a constant fight with them because it's one of those deals where it's either you have Cox or you have, you know, satellite. And I'm in an apartment at the moment, and I can't have satellite due to the apartment complex, so I'm stuck with Cox, and I fucking hate Cox, and I want to shoot somebody because I'm paying too much, and as it is, and if I have a box, I get to pay for even more. Yes, it's stupid. Anyways, so I just stopped recording it as well, and even though I had basically stopped watching, you know, Impact altogether. But I didn't have Thursdays off anyway, so even if, you know, there was nothing on, I was like, yeah, you know, I can watch some wrestling. I just never did. But over probably the last 3 months or so, I've had pretty much every Thursday off. And there's not a lot, I don't watch a lot of TV for some reason. A lot of Thursdays I just don't have a lot going on, and so I will turn on Impact just to turn on Impact. And I did turn on Impact because I did want to see who the mystery guy was, because I was kind of curious on who they were bringing in. I was praying to God it wasn't Tito Ortiz, particularly after I saw the Bellator show last night, the night before. And lo and behold, they come out. Tito Ortiz comes out. The fans didn't seem to give a shit. Twitter went crazy in the wrong way. And the wrestlers really didn't seem to give a shit. Angle and Joe looked like they were trying to get people excited, but it wasn't going over well. Trying to act shocked and perplexed, and it just didn't come. If you're gonna have Tito Ortiz show up, Tito Ortiz needs to show up and kick some ass. That's what Tito Ortiz needs to do. Beyond the fact that, you know, what is Tito Ortiz going to do in TNA? I don't know. You know, King Mo hasn't done anything in TNA yet. Really, Rampage Jackson hasn't done anything in TNA yet. I'm sure they're going to use this as a way to feed up the Rampage Tito pay-per-view match for Bellator. I'm sure that, you know, TNA was told by Spike that you needed to do this, and I get that, and I understand that. But somehow I don't think Spike told them how to use him. I think they said, here, we need you to use him, and here you go, and this is how they chose to do it. And same thing with Rampage. If you're going to bring in these MMA guys that have no wrestling experience, we're not talking about Josh Barnett, who, you know, knows how to work, knows how to do the whole thing. We're not talking about that. We're talking about guys who basically don't know what they're doing, for the most part. You basically have two guys, well, in all of pro wrestling, if you're going to say, okay, we're going to bring in an MMA guy and we're going to have him do a pro wrestling match, there are a list in all of pro wrestling of guys who just go, okay, we want, you know, these are the guys that we want to see them wrestle. TNA has two of those guys. That's Samoa Joe, that's Kurt Angle. And they're also the two guys that probably work best doing that style. And what does TNA do? They, you know, it looked like they were going to do that with Rampage at the start. Now Rampage is part of the Main Event Mafia, so we don't know what is going on there. We don't know what's going on with King Mo. And now we have Tito show up. Unless you're going to do matches or tag matches or something with those guys, honestly, that's who you do it with, and that's it. You know, TNA seems, hopefully they're not doing this, but seems to be making the same mistake New Japan made back when New Japan almost went out of business, because they kept bringing in all of these MMA guys. Now, part of the thing was they were also putting on shoot fights, and, you know, the wrestlers weren't getting enough training, and they were losing, and it was exposing the business and all of that sort of stuff in Japan. But also the fact they were bringing in these guys, and it wasn't going over well. It wasn't due because you weren't bringing in the right type of guys. Now they brought in Sakuraba, and he knows what he's doing in the ring for the most part. And you have Shibata, and you have Suzuki, and you have guys who are, you know, can do that and can do that style, but also know how to work a pro wrestling match, and so it works. TNA's not done that, and, you know, yes, Tito Ortiz was trending on Twitter. That's great and wonderful. Look and see what people were saying about Tito Ortiz, because that will show you something. Because that was the problem, is that it wasn't a good thing. It was a very bad thing. that they were doing. And so what we're left with is this horrible thing that, you know, what are you going to do with them? You know, it's to me, watching it, it wasn't even so much the fans, it was the look on the wrestlers' faces when he came out and the wrestlers were just like, eh. And Ken Anderson was doing this number. Like, what's going on? And it was just, it didn't work. It was horrible. It came off horrible. It was one of the worst debuts I've ever seen. I can ever remember seeing. I'm not trying to crap on TNA because I do like the idea of bringing in MMA guys and have them working with their guys. I think that's a good idea, but you have to execute it in a proper way, and they're not executing it proper way. Surprise, surprise, TNA. And it's unfortunate because even though I didn't watch the whole match because I was watching Nagata and Suzuki, you know, before the finish, you know, AJ Styles and Chris Fernandez had a damn good match, and then they had a crappy finish. But what are you gonna do? Like I said, I was watching Suzuki and Nagata because, you know, every wrestler on the planet should watch those guys because, you know, they know what they're doing, and they just put on these great matches every time, and it's just a great and wonderful and splendid thing. But anyways, that's what I have to say about that. Tito Ortiz, not a good idea. Yes, I know he's a pro wrestling fan. Yes, I know he likes pro wrestling. I know he wanted to be a pro wrestler at some point, but he's not a pro wrestler. He's a guy with a fused back. He's a guy who, you know, is not, you know, not in the best shape, not even the best fighting shape, let alone wrestling shape was completely different. Just not the best of ideas, and came off hilariously bad, to be honest. Hilariously bad. But I've rambled on enough. That's all I really wanted to come on here and talk about. So, later, G1, Night 1, definitely check it out if you're interested. Like I said, not a great show, but a very good show at the very least. Lots of good wrestling, very easy to watch. So, I'm out. Later.